Hey everyone, it's Justin. Thank you for watching and welcome to Justin's House. In this video, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my new Tokyo Features application. If you haven't seen that video, I show you what I'm doing with the application and basically how it works. In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes and I'm revealing exactly how I configured it. It's really not earth-shattering. It's a bunch of tables and some flows and custom actions and a scheduled import to bring that in. Just to remind you, here's what a release note page looks like. So this is what you're going to see as I move through this, what we're populating. What I'm after is, what's the release note page? When's the last time I looked at it? When's the last time ServiceNow updated it? And then what are the features included on that page? And it could be changes, it could be deprecations, or it could be features. So to do that, I have a flow. The flow, the first thing is a trigger for the service catalog. I've never used a service catalog item. I just come on here and run this test whenever I want to run my flow because I'm weird. But the first thing I do is I have a custom action to get the sitemap parts. Let's take a look at that custom action. In that one, I'm basically passing the base URL and the path to the sitemap XML. So it's a REST step, and I'm basically passing that URL and there's a path, right? So if you go to docs.servicenow.com/sitemap.xml, that's essentially what I'm providing to that particular action. So if you look here, there's the URL and there's the path that I'm providing to that action. Once I get that action, it's going to take it and it's going to parse it to an XML object. So I have a video where I did this and was able to pull everything, and then essentially I pass that back as an object to the action that called it, right? So back in the flow, now I have that object that I can use from this particular action. So if you look just above my head, that get sitemap parts actually has an object associated with it that I can then start going through that array or that list of sitemap parts. Okay, so that's number one. Once I've done that, once I've gotten that part, I'm going to loop through them. That's just for each. I'm going to try to look up and see if the record already exists. If it does, and the last modified and updated don't match, I'm going to update it. So basically, ServiceNow's changed something, so I'm going to change something in my system. If the lookup fails, I'm going to catch that, and I'm going to create a new sitemap parts record. Basically, I looked it up and it wasn't there, so I'm going to create a new one, and now I have it. Okay, so that's the first stage. Second stage is, now that I have a record of all those, now I need to go get those XML files. So I'm going to look up all the records that I just created in the previous stage, and then as I loop through this, I'm going to delete any attachments because I'm going to be saving an attachment. And so if you run this more than once, there will be attachments there. So I'm going to delete any just in case they're there. Then I'm going to get the sitemap XML. Okay, so this is another custom action I did. I'll show you what that looks like. With that, I'm going to pass the base URL, docs.servicenow.com, the path, which I just got from the get sitemap parts, and then the sitemap part record ID, the record of where I'm storing that URL, so that I can save the XML file to that record. So in the REST step, I pass the URL, I pass the path, and then I check this box down here to save it as an attachment on the record, right? So that's what I'm doing in order to get these XML files. Once I have that, go back up here, move down a little bit, I actually update the sitemap record to say when I last crawled it. So assuming we found it, attached it, and I put a date on there. Then I look up a data source. Okay, so a data source is where I'm going to do my imports of the XML files. I'm going to make sure there's no attachments on that data source record, and then I'm going to look up where the scheduled data import. So I'm looking at data source here to attach something to, and then the job to do the import. I'm looking up that record. So I want to find that job. Now that job, just so you know, is sitting there inactive and has a date time on it. It doesn't matter because in this third stage, I'm going to retrieve all the release note pages from that. So I'm going to go find that attachment that, if you look up here, I'm going to look at the sitemap part record, say, hey, do you have an attachment? If you have an attachment, I'm going to go over to the attachment table and get that record. And then I'm going to move that attachment to the data source. Okay, so the data source is really, really critical here. Let's take a look at that data source. We'll go to here and data sources and down over here to import sets. And I was really proud of this one because I learned something on this when I did this. These XML files are going to have data in them. and they're going to have data from Quebec and Paris and Rome and all that stuff. So what I did uniquely for this XML file, and when I import it, yes, there's a transform map and it's really simple. It's those fields you saw in the release note pages, but the XPath for that, I found a way to filter and say, when you do this import, only grab the release note pages where the release note URL has Tokyo-release-notes in the URL. So therefore I'm guaranteeing I'm only getting the Tokyo stuff. This is really important because I only want the Tokyo stuff because that's what I want to show you guys. So after that, I attach it. So we've moved it, then we update that scheduled import data record. And basically what I'm doing is, after I attach that file to the data source, which is that move attachment, I'm going to the job and saying, now you're active. I want you to start at this particular time. So let's take a look at the script. The script is telling the start time to use the current date time when it pops up here in a second. It's telling it to use the current date time plus 60 seconds. I don't know why it's not showing. There it is. Okay, so we're getting the current date time. We're going to add 60 seconds to it, and then we're going to return the display value so that that gets set. Once we've set that value and activated it, in theory, the job should run in about a minute or 60 seconds. I wait 5 minutes just in case the system's slow, there's something going on. Then I go back to the data source, I delete the attachment, and then I update the scheduled job to inactive. Now it might still be doing the import, but the scheduled job itself now is inactive and it won't run again. It wouldn't run again anyways because of that start date time. Then I wait for 11 more minutes. So essentially I've stacked up about a 15 to 16 minute window to process each one of these. Yes, there's probably a more efficient, better way to do it. I was trying to crank this out in time for the Tokyo features so that I was able to get everything in there what I wanted. And that essentially is what provides me all of my release note pages. And what the next step is, once I have the release note page, I essentially double click on this particular one, I go to the documentation site, and then I manually looked at what was on that release note page and essentially see here, new in the Tokyo release, changes, changed in this release, and sometimes there's a deprecation section. So I really didn't have an opportunity to programmatically do that. And I'm glad that I didn't because it gave me a chance to do this. I copied and then I pasted this over into my feature. So I'd come over here and I'd create a new feature. I'm going to pause a second. I'm going to show you a time-lapse video of me doing this while I was watching some popular series on TV that I was able to just copy and paste while I was doing this. Okay, welcome back from seeing how I populated all of my features. If you watched my previous video, there's over 600 new features, changes, deprecations in the Tokyo release. I am so excited about showing you all those. Now you've seen behind the scenes how I created the app that I did in ServiceNow. Again, it wasn't earth-shattering, but it's going to help me, help you, and bring to you all the cool stuff in Tokyo that you may want to see or that you may be interested in, and I'm definitely interested in. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, please subscribe, or share it with somebody who you think may be interested in creating their own application in ServiceNow to track features from the ServiceNow releases. And until next time, don't forget, always be learning.